What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Fantasy Premier League video. This time, let's talk about Game Week 22, and there are a lot of things to talk about for Game Week 22. Obviously, we don't have much time to make these decisions, but I think captaincy is a big deal because there's not really a standout option. I suppose it's Salah, but Brighton have been pretty good defensively. But first, let's talk about Game Week 21. So, yes, I took a -8 for some long-term points, and those moves only ended up costing me, I think it was 4 points. So I'll really take that. But this team did not do well at all. I'll take the transfers that I did. I brought in Target and Grealish, but really what hurt me was Stones and Cancelo not playing at all, considering the fact that Man City would have still kept a clean sheet if they were on the field. That would have been at least another 12 points, and that would have not dropped my ranks so significantly. I started at 5K, and I went down to 29K this week, and my game week rank, 6.7 million. There's only 7.9 million players. Yeah, so that was pretty bad. 32 -8. Yeah, no goals, no assists in the whole squad, besides Grealish, and one clean sheet was Target. And those are the two players that I brought in, so that is insane. My midfielders kept some clean sheets, but that's only 1 point. Anyway, moving on, and let's talk about the transfers first, I suppose. So me personally, I've brought in Salah and Bamford, and I think a lot of people are going to be in situations where we have money in the bank, and we can basically choose whoever we want to transfer in because of that reason. So the reasons I went for Salah and Bamford, well, first of all, Salah should be pretty obvious, right? He's established a track record of dependability over the past 3 seasons, and he's just scored 2 goals. Should give him some more confidence. I do think that's important simply because, like, after that long without scoring, like, he had to be losing confidence, right? And then you start second guessing your decisions on the pitch. Hopefully that will help. I also think there's a slight risk of rotation with him simply because he's played so much so recently. But given the fact that he looked pretty good last game with regards to him finishing anyway, his 2 chances, I think they need somebody that can finish. Right now they're desperate for goals, and they're going to hope that he can keep up that goal-scoring form. And I think they're in a situation where they kind of have to play him given that, and also given the fact that I don't really see a lineup without him that isn't really great. So right now I'm captaining Salah. There are other captaincy options. You know, Southampton have not defended well, and this makes Bruno a decent captaincy option. They've defended, you know, when I watch them, I feel like they defend worse. But in terms of expected goals against over the past month, Southampton, where are they? They're bottom half, but they're not too terrible. They're probably about 8th or 9th worst. That's much better than Brighton. Brighton are around 10th, but I feel like when you watch their games, you get a much better implication. And they've got like 2 less expected goals against than Southampton in that time period. So Brighton have also kept how many clean sheets? They kept one last game against Southampton. They kept one against Man City. They did pretty poorly, but before that they kept another one, I believe. So they've defended well. I don't trust their goalkeeper that much. I think Salah should be able to test him, and hopefully we finally get a Salah penalty, if I do captain him, that is. But I've also brought in Bamford. Now, we haven't seen Bamford take another penalty since the first one he took, as a fire truck drives by. But I would imagine that Bamford is on penalties now. And to be honest, his finishing is just really good this season. I've given up the fact that, he's going to start, his finishing is going to die down at some point. He's just too good to not bring in for his price, especially. Leeds are going to be inconsistent. You know, they're a newly promoted team with a lot of championship players that are playing their first season in the Premier League. I say without looking that up, but I'm just assuming. And, but they've got some decent players, and they can really go big in certain games, as they showed against Leicester. As far as the ICT rank, he's second in threat. He's always had good expected goals the whole season. He gets his shots off. He's always central to the attack. You know, one issue I have with Watkins is that a lot of times he drifts wide into a position where he can't really get on the end of crosses, or, you know, he'll drift wide and then send a pass into the middle. All of a sudden, he's sort of out of play for the contest of a random deflection or a rebound goal or something like that. And then, while Bamford does that occasionally, of course, he's more always in the box, kind of more DCL-like, back when DCL was scoring commonly. And I like that about Bamford, and the penalties are just an extra bonus. As far as Aston Villa go, I think Grealish is going to be on penalties now if they get one, and El Ghazi is not on the pitch. So Calvert-Lewin is on my bench right now. This is kind of a 4-man fixture pick, so I feel like the decision of who to bench is between Calvert-Lewin, Antonio, and Gundogan. Now, Gundogan didn't have any shots last game, but they played Burnley. Man City are pretty good against Burnley most of the time, and Gundogan simply has been playing very well recently. I feel like if he gets one big chance, he'll finish it. I'm not so sure about Calvert-Lewin. I don't trust James right now. Jeez, he was so frustrating to watch last game, James, because he's got the skill, but I don't know, man. His athleticism just doesn't work out, and then when he gets fouled, he always stays on the ground for 5 minutes. But Antonio's in there because Aston Villa, who Antonio plays, have actually given up a lot of chances recently. And although Aston Villa kept a clean sheet last game, which I'm glad they did, they gave up a lot of chances where they were desperately defending, making last-second blocks. Now, I think this is okay for Antonio. Antonio isn't the kind of guy that gets a lot of chances, at least recently. He's just been getting 1 or 2 big chances, and he scored 2 of them, and he's got 1 assist in the last 4 games. That's pretty good. He also has had some really good fixtures, though. So if I was to bench him, I would be deciding that, the only reason that he's done anything is because of his really good fixtures, which are, who did he play? He played Burnley, West Brom, Crystal Palace, and then Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool is not a great fixture, but those other 3 are pretty good. But now they play Villa, and I think that's a good fixture as well. Of course, benching Calvert-Lewin at Leeds, it kind of sucks. I mean, I have to bench one of these attackers. And Leeds often can play an open style of game, which can fare well for strikers, but I'm yet to really decide on that. So right now, Calvert-Lewin's on the bench. I'm happy to bring in 2 talisman. Again, I feel like I can rely on talisman more longer term, because if their team do well, then they will probably get some points, and that goes for Grealish, Salah, Bamford, maybe Antonio. But right now, I would say those are the main ones that I would say are talisman. And Calvert-Lewin as well. He's on my bench, though. Next up, I really have to get rid of Reece James. I don't see much for him. I'm not really sure who I would get. One more thing I want to talk about is I think now is a time. I think it's a time for patience. And I made a -4. Now my team's pretty set, and I think I've got to be pretty patient now, because besides these players that I brought in, really, Salah and Bamford, and maybe getting rid of Rashford soon for somebody else, there simply aren't a lot of options right now that I'm amazingly interested in. So one reason for this, okay, they're decent options, but not necessarily premiums. So Chelsea, they don't have any options I'm interested in. Maybe a defender like if Azpilicueta or Alonso can nail down a spot, but we're going to say this for a lot of Chelsea players. If they can nail down a spot, there'd be a good option. For example, Pulisic hasn't started the last 2 games. Or at least hasn't played 90 minutes the last 2 games. He played 45 and 14. Hudson-Odoi isn't nailed on, plays right wing back sometimes. Alonso isn't nailed on, Azpilicueta isn't nailed on. I would assume some of their center backs and goalie are nailed on, like Rudiger potentially. But again, we don't know for sure right now. And they also haven't been creative. So if we look at Chelsea's expected goals since the new year, they are below, let's sort by expected goals here. Chelsea are below West Brom. They both played 5 games, pretty decent sample size. They're below Wolves, Tottenham, Leicester, Brighton, Villa, Liverpool. You get the picture. They are beating Leeds, though, and obviously I have Bamford. And Everton are dead last. They've played less games, but still, 2.14 expected goals in 4 games is very, very bad. And that's one of the reasons why I'm benching Calvert-Lewin. My gut actually told me initially to bench Antonio. But after seeing the actual statistics, I'm sort of going against it and benching Calvert-Lewin. But yeah, so no options at Chelsea I'm really interested in besides potentially defenders. Leicester have Barnes. I'm interested in him. Again, he's pretty cheap, though. And that's one reason why I have Salah. I had so much money in the bank. I felt like I had a bunch of decent players, but nobody I could really rely on, even through bad fixtures or whatever. So I wanted to get another player that I could really rely on, and obviously I think he'll get points. Spurs, without Kane, I don't necessarily trust Son. It's okay if you have him. You can keep him. But he's not a premium that's really doing premium-like things right now. Obviously, a lot of these small teams don't ever have premium options. Grealish is the closest premium-like returner, or at least with that potential to do so. Arsenal and Man United, with Bruno playing poorly and not really getting as many shots, is he somebody we're going to keep? we don't really know. I think now is the time for patience given their fixtures, and the fact that who are you going to get rid of him for? Somebody like Harvey Barnes that will probably go cold pretty soon, you know. Again, I think it's a time for patience with these players. Arsenal, is anybody going to come out there and be a real reliable option? I think Saka was. Now he's hurt. So that's kind of tough. Glad I got rid of him, by the way. I mean, we just got no injury news about that. Obviously, these small teams, again, don't have any premiums. Man City, I don't trust Sterling. Too much rotation. I don't trust Jesus. Simply not good enough. Gundogan's probably the closest to something I trust. He's on penalties if we're ever going to get one again. Seems like there weren't any last week. You know, one player that I haven't heard talked about much that maybe, again, this is kind of like the Harvey Barnes level thing where we have plenty of players like this, is Zaha. I feel like he's been pretty decent recently. I think he's got okay fixtures coming up. Newcastle, Leeds, Burnley, Brighton, Fulham. That's good. And if Crystal Palace can really take control of these games, you know, coming off this 1-0 win against Wolves, his numbers have been decent recently. Not amazing, but good enough to where I feel like he can get some penalties maybe and also just work his magic. He can always score in any game. His expected goals is lower than like Barnes, for example, since the new year, and he does lack some creativity as well, but it's still Zaha, and with these good fixtures, that could take a little bump up. With that said, he's actually beating Bamford, but Bamford's creativity is 0.37 expected assists per 90 minutes. That's higher than like Watkins, Sterling, Gundogan, Son, Salah, Barnes, Bruno. Like since the new year, Bamford's really had an uptick in his creativity. We saw that with his 2 assists last game. And him and Ings both sort of had the same thing going. If Ings can get more big chances, if his teammates can set him up a little bit more, he could be a good option too. Not the worst fixtures for him. I think he's got some decent matchups anyway. But yeah, with these lack of options, like especially premiums, I think the way to go is Salah and Bruno still and hold them if you have them. Generally, any premium, I think it's a hold. I mean, besides Alba, obviously. So, yeah, that -4 is done, and I don't have any plans for the future because I don't really know what's going to happen. I don't really have much else to say besides my own benching and my own strategy of getting premiums in because there's just so much mistrust of things. I just don't trust a lot. We have a lot of fixtures this week that aren't amazing, but they're decent, and it lends ourselves to a lot of captaincy options where we simply don't know. So to talk a little more about captaincy, and then I'll end it off, I'll say this. Southampton are a worse defense than Brighton. I think I can say that pretty confidently at the moment. What did Southampton do last game in terms of actual goals scored? Aston Villa only scored 1 on them. I felt like they could have had more. Southampton should have scored 2, by the way. But I've seen Aston Villa do that in the past where they don't score quite as much as they should. Grealish always setting everybody up and they're always missing. I think this could be a game that could help United bounce back a little bit from their poor goal-scoring form, which that would be very nice for me as a Bruno and Rashford owner. I'm not quite confident enough to captain Bruno, but I do think he's being overlooked a little bit in terms of captaincy options. If you don't have Salah and you do have Bruno and you're looking for somebody to captain, maybe you're looking at Gundogan or Antonio or whoever you may have, I think I would lean towards Bruno, because I think at some point with the talent that United have in the squad, they've got to bounce back from this. And there's no better time than against Southampton. Well, in fact, there probably is a better time because they play Everton, West Brom, and Newcastle coming up soon. But I wouldn't sell Bruno right now. I'm even holding on to Rashford, so I think that says enough. Cancelo and Stones, I think, will be fine this week. I think they'll play. So that kind of makes Cancelo another captaincy option. It's still a little risky because we can't predict Pep. So I would just keep that in mind. I think I'm going to go with Salah off of his prestige, his level of reliability over the past, I don't know how many seasons. And as last year's winner said, if you don't know who to captain Salah, and that's something that I've always done and agree with. So Salah captain for me, most likely. Anyway, let me know what you think. Are there any premiums that you trust other than Salah that you're willing to transfer in or out? Like, a lot of these guys are simply holds at the moment because there's not great alternatives at that price range. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching this far into the video. Have a good Game Week 22. It's Game Week 22, right? Yes, it is. And I will see you next time. Feel free to stop by my deadline live stream and say what's up. But I will see you then. So bye.